Hi there. This is my review of the animated Histories and Lore special features from the Game of Thrones Season 8 Blu-ray box set. Someone leaked a copy of these things to me a few days early before the street date on Monday, so I can review them for you. And as I've said in prior news videos, we're getting a pretty thin spread this year, that in all prior seasons, we used to get a full hour of these things. This year, we're only getting half an hour, and they couldn't think of that many more to do. And I found out through the Blu-ray content rating website what six we're getting, the titles, but not what actors in character are narrating them. Well, it turns out that Varys narrates 4 out of 6. Conleth Hill in character is Varys. It's weird that 4 out of 6 of these are Varys. And to an extent, he usually does the ones that cover ancient history of 100 or more years in the past that aren't like living memory, where Sansa wouldn't narrate that, she wasn't there. It's still weird that we didn't even get 6 actors. We got Varys does 4 out of 6. So just the fact we're only getting half an hour of these, and there's only 4 actors in all of them, it's part of a general trend that this is not a very heavy set of special features this year. I talked about this in my preceding video, that noticeably hardly any of the starring cast came back to do episode commentaries for the Blu-ray. Even people who regularly did them through Season 7, like Kit Harington, Peter Dinklage, Lena Headey, Ian Glenn, Jorah Mormont, did not come back to do those, nor did he come back for the Histories and Lore, which he always did those, even on unrelated things, because he's Mr. Exposition. That I don't know what's happening. I don't think a lack of actors affected what Histories and Lore they could do. I have no evidence. I think it's more that the writers just plain couldn't think of stuff. I had to see, I had a speculation video. I thought, well, maybe I'll do a House Mormont one. They should have done a House Mormont one. Or Fire and Blood material on Jaehaerys and stuff, and they didn't. So, what was there in Season 8 to talk about? I think if you were making these for, the final book in the series years from now, there'd be a lot of background to talk about. But what happened this year? A bad White Walker battle episode, Daenerys going crazy for some reason, a lot of staring, that there wasn't that much. They're not into background. That's not their focus. So just quickly breezing through these things, what did we get? To start with, we got King's Landing, narrated by Varys, and it's nothing to write home about and doesn't really add any information. This is stuff that was covered in other histories and lore before this, and its worst mistake is, I said in my speculation video, you'd think they'd at least have a geography of King's Landing video, even though that wouldn't really affect the battle, which turned out to be a curb stomp where the dragon won it single-handedly. There wasn't really a tactical battle taking this gate and this street and that neighborhood. But I thought, the least you could do is show a map and say this is where everything is. The weird thing is, it's Varys describing different neighborhoods, major streets, and the hills in the city. They don't show a map, which is just silly. Why wouldn't you show a map to show where what you're talking about is? He'll describe, well, this is the street of the sisters between the Dragon Pit and the Great Sept. Shouldn't this be on a map so we can see everything in relation to everything else? So, nothing we didn't already know. It doesn't really add anything to support Season 8. Not that it really affected the events of Season 8. That's more the live-action episode's fault for not having a real battle street by street. And I didn't really think the artwork really added much. There was nothing I needed to screenshot from it for wiki purposes, to upload for things we didn't have a visual of before from the books. So that was forgettable, but not offensive. The Greyjoy Rebellion one was weird in that the artwork was decent. It's the guy who did the Ironborn ones from Season 6. That's okay. It's, why is this here? This would have fit in Season 7, when the whole thing is Jaime and Euron describing the Greyjoy Rebellion and arguing about it. Now, obviously, that makes sense, that the Greyjoys attacked the western coast. They attacked Lannisport and the Casterly Rock. So the Lannister fleets were attacked. So it's Jaime giving his view on it, contrasted with Euron. But we already got most of this when Euron alone was talking about it in the Season 6 Histories and Lore. While it's fun to have Jaime as a counterpoint now, we didn't need this. We probably wouldn't have needed it for Season 7. There's less reason for it to be here now. And the artwork is decent. The acting is decent. There aren't any factual errors in it. It's just, we didn't really need this. You couldn't think of a better one. Also forgettable. And I didn't need to screenshot anything or base new wiki articles on it, because we do all of this already. The South was the weird one. In my speculation video, I said, I hope it might be about, because they mentioned Nath so much this year. Maybe it'll be about the lands of the South, like Nath and the Summer Isles. But I said, well, I'm probably not that lucky. It'll probably be Sansa Stark talking about how stupid the lands of the South are, which is why the North will want to declare independence from them. I was half right. It's actually narrated by Tormund, talking about everything south of the Wall. And while the writing is decent, talking about the culture clash of how the wildlings see everyone south of the Wall, we've been dealing with that since Season 2, okay? And the artwork is decent, but not stuff I prefer, and it's not of anything new. It's just wildlings, not even like diverse wildlings like the cave dwellers or something, or giants. It's just Tormund's gang, and it's decent acting on his part. The writing makes sense. There aren't huge errors in it. But then they start trying to explain. I've never felt the Histories and Lore this politicized before, where they were trying to have the TV writers retcon things to support what they were doing in the live-action episodes. That the video starts with Tormund saying, whenever there was a bad winter or something and the wildlings north of the Wall couldn't find enough to hunt and were starving, we'd stare with envy south of the Wall, that we were blocked out from all the fertile lands of the South. You just said you don't like living north of the Wall. And the end of the video is the writers talking through him saying, but of course, well, the wildlings have to go home because we don't like it down here. And it's just, dude, that's the writers talking through you. And it almost made sense, actually, the way he says it, plus his delivery of, that, well, there's so many wars down here between lords and rules and, feudalism. So it almost made sense the way he's delivered it, and it wasn't too far-fetched, just opposed to Danny is crazy as, geez, you guys are all nuts here, and without the White Walkers, I guess it'll be okay in the North. We don't want to get dragged into your wars. It is presentable. But even if that's presentable, it doesn't add information we didn't already have. It's him trying to explain why they would want to go back. But it's interesting for him going, you guys in your stone houses. It's forgettable. It doesn't have any great artwork. I needed a screenshot in it. Nothing is based on this. So the last 3 of these are all delivered by Varys. And along those lines, I told you this when I made the video saying what the titles were. They picked these not because they're related to Season 8 in any way. I mean, the Defiance of Duskendale, they didn't mention the name Duskendale this season, or any season. They picked these because they're bad Targaryen moments where they either did something crazy or there was a bad rebellion between them, like the Blackfires. There's a civil war where a bastard claimed it, like the Jon-Dany situation. Where, look, you're making this because you're trying to support that. Though I'm pleased to say that it really amounts to like one sentence at the end of each of these videos. Like the bookend thing at the end where Varys is talking, like the last line of the Maegor one will be, oh no, if Targaryen is too crazy, maybe I should support a Snow. Which is stupid, but it's like one line at the end, so it doesn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the whole thing. I thought they'd be actively rewriting the whole thing, like with every line giving a slant of, Maegor killed that guy, I guess Dany will do the same. Like halfway through it, they don't. It's one line at the end of, Targaryens can go crazy sometimes. So it didn't really get in the way. And in some ways, I'm almost more insulted that they didn't put more effort into that. Like, if you're going to try to pick histories and lore which will make Dany look bad, make a full hour of them. Or do a more effort into writing it that way. And they didn't, to the point you could almost ignore it. So it's such a half-hearted attempt that it doesn't get in the way, and just you're not even good at lying. So first we've got the Defiance of Duskendale, which was decent. I mean, the artwork is nice. It's in that style, that simple but clean and easy to see style of the Dance of the Dragons featurette from season 5, where it's clear artwork, you can see what's going on. There weren't any really impressive visuals. It's just a siege of a town. There's nothing huge going on in it. It's not a major war. But it's pretty much a straightforward adaptation of the story of the Defiance of Duskendale from the novels, and of Barristan sneaking in, saving the king. Fine, but this doesn't really add anything to Season 8. Why is this here? Like, oh, Dany's supposed to be the Mad King? But that's on a meta level. They don't actually spell that out in it. I do take points off of it for, this is more of an art error. There's a point at the beginning where they prominently show a bunch of gold dragon coins without dragons on them. Like, it has the king's face on one side and, like, a house on the other, a sept, I think. And it's, look, they have 3 kinds of coins. Gold dragons have dragons on them, silver stags have stags on them, and copper pennies have stars on them. You should know what their money looks like. You can Google it. But that's a minor art error. In terms of the story, it's decent. It's just, compared to, like, Sothorios or the Dance of the Dragons, it's not, the Defiance of Duskendale isn't this huge historical war or era with amazing visuals or decent visuals in it. So ultimately this was also forgettable, and I didn't like have that much new information in it to make wiki articles out of. The only 2 that are really noteworthy are Maegor the Cruel and the Blackfires. The Maegor the Cruel one is good, but this could have sustained like a full 20 minutes. So it's kind of a disappointment that, you could have done a lot more with this. On top of that, I take a lot of points off because I really do not like this art style. This guy has done some artwork for prior sets where it's this minimalist style with pen and ink drawings and some watercolors, but no background. So it's not even like a full comic. That minimalist thing, and I know that is a style. I think that's better for like legendary or magical things, that the whole point is we don't know everything about them. It's Maegor at his small council. You should animate the whole thing, draw it in. So I really did not like the way that was. For people who've already leaked this on YouTube, I'm seeing people in the comments already independently going, they barely animated this. Well, we've seen this guy before. That's his style. It's a minimalist, and I don't like it. But Conleth Hill's narration is, of course, great. And the other thing I'm seeing in like comment sections on this is people going, this is accurately narrating off the Sons of the Dragon story by George R.R. Martin. So they're going, wow, in 5 minutes, this is better than anything in Season 8, because it is straight book narrative about Maegor. So the actual story is decent. It's hard to convey with that art style and in this short of a time. I mean, I read The Sons of the Dragon, so I know who Rhaena was, who Aegon the Younger was, and Quicksilver, and they don't even mention them by name. Like, it just says, oh, his other nephew rose in rebellion. I mean, Jaehaerys? But please tell me in the comments if you've seen that one. If you hadn't read the books and didn't already know that story, was this intelligible to you? I mean, it was to me, because I knew what they were referring to. And within only 5 minutes, it actually did as good a job as you plausibly could. This should be 20 minutes. It's a bigger story than that. So, looking at it, it's not bad. I did have fun going, oh, he's talking about Jaehaerys. They're talking about that other lord the Velaryon lord who resigned in protest and took the fleet. It should have been bigger than this. I was expecting another little mini movie, like 20 minutes out of this. On top of that, they made a factual error in it where, just briefly, I know it's in 5 minutes, he doesn't have enough time to explain everything, so he goes, oh, when Maegor took his 3 black brides, when he married wives 4, 5, and 6 in one triple ceremony, it says, but they all had stillbirths when he tried to impregnate them that were monstrous. No, they say his half-niece Rhaena, who he forced to marry him, mercifully never got pregnant with one of his monsters, who were stillborn abominations. So that line is an error. No, Rhaena never had to go through with that. There's actually better Rhaena artwork in This whole Maegor the Cruel thing is talking about once Maegor becomes king through the Faith Militant. A lot of it's talking about Quicksilver and Prince Aegon in the battle beneath the God's Eye and fighting the Faith Militant through his death. So it's like a sequel to or complementing that earlier one from Season 5 titled The Faith Militant, which was the High Sparrow talking about the start of the Faith Militant uprising with his older brother Aenys, and showing it started when he stupidly announced that he was going to have his two children marry each other incestuously to keep the Targaryen bloodline pure. And you saw like a shot of Rhaena and young Aegon, and then just briefly at the end it glossed over, then Maegor came to power and there was a war. This one glosses over the beginning and then focuses on the war. So these two combined complement each other. If you're making a supercut of this on YouTube, they go right after each other. So look at the artwork on that other one where it's this clean cartoon but clear animated style, same style as they used in Dance of the Dragons featurette, versus this minimalist pen and ink thing I really don't like. So points off for that, plus that minor error about Rhaena getting pregnant when she didn't. I gave a copy of this to Red Team Review, and he posted it on his YouTube channel already, so like the comments are great. They barely animated this, but the story is still better than Season 8. So if you want to see that, head over to his channel. The really only good one that I actually praise, and I used to get so much enjoyment out of these Histories and Lore, the only really good one of these that I'm praising is the one on the Blackfires, just titled The Blackfires. The artwork isn't just good, it's gorgeous. In the lush, colorful style of the Tourney of Harrenhal from a previous set, the one on the Tourney of Harrenhal, it's not that clean cartoon style, it's that pastel thing, but it's still lush and vibrant and has backgrounds that the Maegor one doesn't. Now, obviously, the story of the Blackfire Rebellions could sustain a full TV show, so there's only so much they can do in 5 minutes, but it does a good job of explaining this is how the Blackfires happened, how they started. It doesn't focus on the actual war of the Blackfire Rebellion or the Battle of Redgrass Field. It's what led up to the outbreak of the war, the causes of it. In fairly good detail, not just the people, but the political factors of... And other featurettes have, at various points, mentioned Battle of Redgrass Field, so we have, like, animated screenshots of that. But this is what led up to that. It's mostly about the seeds of it that were sown in the corrupt reign of Aegon IV the Unworthy. So it does a lot talking about Aegon IV, and then shows the youth of Daemon Blackfire and how he got his name, and talking about the actual, not just the people, but the politics, and he bothers to explain coherently to someone I think didn't read it, that, well, because they just got Dorne into the realm through marriage alliance, all of the anti-Dorne lords, the rallied around Daemon Blackfire as an alternative, so the Blackfires were essentially the anti-Dorne faction at court, encouraging him to make a play for the throne. This is presented coherently. I think even if you didn't read the books, you would understand what's going on. It's talking about everything from Aegon IV through the outbreak of the First Rebellion pretty clearly, and that's 5 minutes of stuff, so it doesn't have more time to cover everything after that, like Fireball and fighting in the Westerlands, much less the other rebellions. But it ends with a quick montage explaining Daemon died, and by the way, there were 5 rebellions in all. This is actually the first featurette that has mentioned all 5 Blackfire rebellions, clearly, that there was a second one, there was a third one, the fourth one. Given that Martin glossed over those in the World of Ice and Fire, it just says there was Hagon in the third rebellion, then Duncan the Tall killed Daemon the Third in the fourth rebellion, which is as much as we know now, but for wiki purposes, so this is new info and new screenshots of this is what Daemon the Third looked like. I can screenshot this and put it into something. I wish this was a 20-minute featurette going over each of the Blackfires. But, it's mostly covering everything up until the start of the First Rebellion and explaining why it happened. That makes sense. This is the only one. If you only watched one, this is it. Thinking on it right now, recording this, I'm usually afraid to post things on my channel, but I think I will post this on my channel. I thought Red Team Review would post Blackfires, and he said, well, I like the Maegor one more, which, okay, that's to his taste, but you deserve to see this. I'll demonetize it, of course, and because it's the last Histories and Lore set we're going to get until the next prequel. Like, this is the last good one that's pretty much, it doesn't really have any overlap with Season 8, nor does it really try to tie in with Season 8 that much. It's like a standalone, oh, here's the Blackfires. Okay, I hope this sets up prequel stuff. But overall, the whole thing was very disappointing. We only got half an hour, not a full hour. Only 4 people, because Varys narrates 4 of them. And, thinking on it, there weren't any women in it either. The bigger problem is there were physically 4 people, much less that there weren't any women in it. And all the wacky plot things they were trying to rationalize, thankfully didn't get in the way that much, like I said. Though also, it's, you weren't even trying. That we could tell you picked these to try to lampshade that, no, retcon, Daenerys is crazy, Targaryens are always crazy. You should have tried harder if you're going to do that. By the numbers here, in comparison, Season 6's Histories and Lore had 16 cast members in it, spread across 18 videos, not 4 across 6. Season 7 was a little different because it had that big movie on the Targaryen conquest, which was cut up into internal chapters, but it still had 10 voice actors in it. I mean, prominent voice actors, Jaime, Samwell, Sansa, who did not come back for this one. Season 5 had 17 voice actors in it. A lot of them, though, were dead characters who came back to Dance of the Dragons. But the normal one that didn't have a mini-movie in it was Season 6, which had a full hour across 18 episodes with 16 different voice actors. Not 4. Wrapping up here, fun fact, I don't know why some of the cast members never did Histories and Lore in all 8 years of this. But starring cast members who never did Histories and Lore videos, there were 4. Peter Dinklage, Tyrion, Lena Headey as Cersei, Maisie Williams as Arya, or Emilia Clarke as Daenerys. And almost everyone else did it at some point or another. I mean, obviously, like, Marjorie did the Tyrell ones instead of Olenna or Loras, but okay, maybe the actor was unavailable, and it overlaps. Well, you need Marjorie to... You picked one, and it was Marjorie, fair enough. Or, like, Ramsay Bolton never did one, but they'd have Roose Bolton do one on House Bolton's history. And given a choice, I'd go with Roose, because he has a great speaking voice, that Roose Bolton actor. I prefer that he do it instead of Ramsay. And he's older, he would know more about their past. Speaking of which, of the 4 who didn't, Tyrion, Cersei, Arya, Daenerys, I can understand not doing an Arya or Daenerys one due to their young ages, really. I mean, they were children when all this backstory stuff began. They're the ones who get stuff explained to them. Then again, Arya is older than Bran, so Bran talked about, like, magic stuff. Why not have Arya? But because she's a viewpoint character for the audience, things get explained to her. Things get explained to Daenerys. So I give them a pass on that, but why did we never get Cersei or Tyrion ones of these? Was Dinklage unavailable or cost too much? I mean, like in Season 3 or something. One thing I always really wanted that we never got was a video of Cersei giving her perspective on Robert's Rebellion. Like in Season 5, when we show a flashback to that, that would have made sense to explain, to an audience that didn't quite put it together, when she says, will I marry the prince, that Cersei thought she was going to marry Rhaegar because Tywin was hand of the king. In an alternate universe, she would have been the mother of his children, but he didn't marry her. Instead, Lyanna was Jon's mother. So, and seeing like a Feast for Crows, just how crazy she is and self-serving her memory is in Robert's Rebellion, of how slanted her view of events was. Why did she never come back for one of these? I don't know. Maybe they didn't think to write it. Maybe she was unavailable. I'd be fascinated to learn, like, how did you pick who did which one of these? I don't know. So I'm going to post up the Blackfires one. I look forward to your comments on that one. They didn't go out with a bang. They went out with a whimper. This is not a good set. It's not even that it's bad. It's half-hearted. Even compared to Season 7, which had a decent Histories and Lore thing with that Targaryen conquest mini-movie. So I close by saying here, this isn't the end. We're moving into a prequel era, and I hope we get more bonus videos like this in the upcoming House of the Dragon prequel TV series in their Blu-ray releases. House of the Dragon is already ordered for a full first season. I hope they keep making animated featurettes talking about character backstories, and world-building backstories of this is why this thing is here at this time, and I hope you join me then in about a year or two when we're reviewing the next set of these things.